I shall strike you down. For my people. I shall.
The Black Death is one of the newer mods on the good old Neverwinter Nights Vault, and I wanted to break up some of the older module mini reviews I've been doing over the last couple weeks. Also, you really have to be kind of careful with reviewing modules this fresh unless you really have a good idea that the creator has the chops for making it. Basically, I don't think anyone new to the modding scene would want to have their flaws created in a YouTube video and then put out there, especially if they're really just getting their feet wet into making mods themselves. With that being said, the author of this particular module has made a few in the past and is decently received with his work, so I felt pretty comfortable reviewing this. So, what is Black Death? It's a short mod that can be completed in around 2 hours or less depending on how focused someone is. It's also important to use the generated character for the playthrough. In this, you're a human fighter during the times of the Crusades, basically a knight. This is important for gear layout and feats determined, but also for the story being told. This is definitely a low fantasy setting module with minimalist use of sorcery, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have an interesting take on the world. Based on a journey of a crusader's return to home, things become amiss when our hero stumbles upon a plague sweeping through the countryside, hence the title Black Death. But what we discover is more sinister than just that as the dead begin to rise up against the living. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, remember if you like this style of content to give a thumbs up and subscribe, but let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing I want to point out about Black Death is the excellent use of the Neverwinter Nights assets for setting development. Everything from the costume design to just the use of the environment for world building is really stand out. While I did stumble across some dialogue typos, there was some really good scripting as well with interesting dialogue choices. Actually, the use of morality is very striking in this mod as we see several examples played out on both sides of evil and good. You see, the pre-made character is inherently of the lawful good variety, and so it's easy to roleplay out the situations presented and get into the mindset of how our hero is thinking or what might be going on through his head in his own process. I found this module easy to get into with what needed to be done. There wasn't a lot of wasted space or aimless wandering. I also found the opening rather difficult. Limited resources played a major role here, along with limited loot and vendors. Everything seemed important. Do I use the healing kit before continuing on, or hope for a place to rest up ahead? Once some of the module had played out, I found it became a lot easier as the bulk of the combat involves around zombies of some form or another, which as a level 3 warrior armed with decent equipment, could dismantle fairly easily. One thing to note, I found myself wanting more XP than was given and ended up butchering all the animals just for the extra XP to level about midway through the module. Ah yes, the daring dashing knight of utmost integrity reduced to the killer of chickens, cows, and any flying bird that wandered nearby. Didn't know if there would be undead cows to contend with later on. Sorry old Betsy, and thanks Diablo for putting this fear into me. While the middle of the module saw the lion's share of my time running around with one big quest and setting up to an interesting battle sequence for later, fortunately it did ramp up nicely towards the end, being on par with the difficulty spikes seen in the beginning. This was a massive plus. This setting tries to utilize low resources greatly, and I think it succeeds. Plus, if one is to explore all the areas available for wrapping up the fetch quest, they'll find themselves well stocked for the encounter. Or maybe I'm just a hoarder and I waited for that moment to unload everything given. Either way, it worked out well enough, with enough cause and effect happening in the battle to go on to the final act of this short module. In the end, Black Death comes across as above average mod. It doesn't overstay its welcome and wraps up nicely with a decent ending. Overall, I was highly surprised by this work and look forward to some point in the future digging into this creator's other work, and definitely recommend this one to enjoy on a free evening. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Remember to sub for more future content like this, but I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Later.